Hey guys, RevClaw here. Just kidding, it's just me, TheFireBurnings. Could you tell? Anyways, we're going to be doing something a little different today. Today, instead of doing our usual sermon, what we're going to be doing is it's going to be a Q&A. You know, I'll ask him some questions, and we'll get kind of more in depth in that, and then, yeah, and so, yeah. He won't know the questions, he won't have anything prepared, it's just going to be him answering questions. And then it'll probably turn into a conversation. I'll try to keep this as to the minimal as possible. So yeah, let's get to it.
You have a lot of work to do now. Okay, go.
Okay. So first question. Would it still be wrong to actually like Eminem and still be Christian at the same time, considering all the stuff that goes into his music?
Well, that's the problem, is that you gotta remember what you're putting in your head.
Yeah, that too. I mean,
whatever you fill your mind with, the Bible says, from the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. It's another way of saying, all the stuff you put in your head comes back out in your speech and the way you think about things. And so, with a lot of music, and I'm as guilty of it as liking songs I shouldn't.
Cause I like a couple songs done by Eminem, like Never Enough. Just some stuff that I like that I probably shouldn't, but it's sometimes I see kind of applying in my life because people just don't leave me alone about stuff.
Well, that's the point. Some things, the song may speak to things in your life, things that are going on in your life, but it's still from the wrong point of view. It's not looking at people in love, like the song I'll Kill You. It's talking about murder, and it's talking about slashing people up, just doing bad things, and that's not how God approaches anything. Even the people that you don't like or that have done bad things to you, God still wants to see. Doesn't mean it's not His will that anyone should die.
Yeah, I mean,
but all should come to know Him and go to heaven. So when you're sitting there thinking and realize that it's a way of working out your own aggression and your own feelings without actually committing a crime, you're still sinning because you were still looking at the situation, that person, through hateful eyes instead of looking at them the way that Jesus would look at them, and realize that they're broken, that there's something that happened in their life that caused them to behave the way they behave, and to treat other people. That means they're hurt. People lash out, so they usually, if a kid has a bad home life and he's a bully, it's because he's just acting out what he sees. He's expressing his feelings and lashing out at everybody around him because he's afraid or whatever. But that's the problem with it. And we're all guilty of it because, yeah, different things in my life, and I've heard those songs. There was a point in time where, during a hard part, I was like, it allowed me to express my own emotions about a certain situation, but does it make it right?
well, I guess not.
And that's the point. But see, it's not. But that's the failing. You're human, and so you have these feelings, and you want to deal with them. And you learn as you get older to look at the perspective instead of looking at it from those eyes of like, oh, I wish I could just. Oh, I'd love to. And we all have that. We experience that.
Because a lot of times the way I see it is that there's some stuff I think that I want to talk about, but I don't want to look like a horrible person while talking about it because of some of the thoughts that people think.
But see, that's the thing. That's a matter of maturing and going to God with it instead of listening to a song and thinking it through in your head. And that's a technique that I used when I was going through the worst things in my life, was to think through the thing, have the thought, think through the whole action, and then come to the consequences of that action. Was that a good thing? Because it didn't just help me through to keep me from doing something bad, but it also caused me to think things through to the point where I'll not even start a project because I'm like, well, you come to the worst end of it, going, well, if it does this, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But see, so the music, although it may be allowing you to get out the aggression without actually committing a crime, but you're still sinning. And that's where it comes in, is learning to look at people through Jesus' eyes rather than our own. Because flesh, we're mortal, and we think things through our feelings, and it's a natural part of being human is to want to strangle somebody.
Okay, and something that came up. You said that now there's been a lot of arguing about this. You said that it's not God's will for anyone to die, correct? Okay, but
it's what God's will. We all die.
Yeah, I mean,
in
like,
a matter of
like,
this stuff, the flesh.
I mean, like killing someone. Like that's not His will, right? That's basically what you were saying. I mean, that's what I got that gist.
Within the context of God wants everyone to have a chance to come to know Him, but He's a holy God. He's a just God, and if you sin against Him long enough, and your whole culture is based on running contrary to God's law, and what is the major? What is the commandment above all?
Thou shalt not kill.
No.
No, that was
No. The greatest commandment is to love
to
God, to love God first, and then the second greatest commandment is you love God with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and soul. And the second is like it, love thy neighbor as thyself. Those are the two greatest commandments.
Yeah.
So,
And that, well, you just answered my question right there because with the just God, because God told the Israelites to kill the Canaanites, including all men, women, and children, and that pretty much just answered.
But you have to understand the culture. You have to understand.
Well, yeah. I mean,
well, I know, but that's what I'm getting to is this: you just got to understand the culture of what was going on in Canaan. They were worshiping other gods, and their worship of these other gods was like they'd sacrifice their children. Their bloodlines were corrupted by the bloodline of the Canaanites was corrupted by the fallen angels. So there was a mixed race of people, and not human, not a mixed race like oh they were black and white mixed like that. That's
like these like two different races, like fallen angels and human. That's not good.
That's why there was all this.
And it's like Noah's Ark. He killed them because
for the same reason.
For the exact same reason. And then I don't see people arguing about that, and it makes me mad because exact same thing with the Canaanites. There's no difference there whatsoever.
Well, there was the culture and their bloodlines were corrupt, and what the gods that they were worshiping, and so, I think the thing that bothers me the most is when people go, well, they're fine. People seem to be fine with going after God about, well, He told the Israelites to go kill the Canaanites, women and children included. Well, do you think that women can't be evil? And
yeah, that's a subject that really makes me mad.
When it comes to children, their bloodlines were corrupt. They were a mix of fallen angels and humans, but you gotta understand God. God is holy and just. So yeah, He may have sent them out and told them to destroy everything because they had to wipe out the bloodlines. But the other thing too is that children who are still innocent in God's eyes, they don't go to hell. They go to heaven because they're innocent. They have not reached a maturity level to make the decision yet.
Yeah.
So, and they don't really, their brains haven't developed to the point where they understand right and wrong in a mature way. They may have basic concept, but they can't formulate and make that decision. So they're still innocent in God's eyes. So children, first of all, go to heaven. And we love to think of things, but what the point I was getting to was, most people will sit there and say, well, He sent them out to kill women and children. But yet, they will go after God about sending his people to go out and destroy this race of people, the Canaanites, but yet they stand silent and don't say a thing when 70 million children are killed inside their mother's wombs. And they that's choice, the mother's choice. It's just a lump of cells. Well, no, it's a baby. It's a life. Whether you want to see it as that or not, just because it's hidden doesn't change what it really is.
Yeah, another thing, they shouldn't be saying that because, well, look at you. What if your mother aborted you? Would you be here today?
Yeah, but they don't. That's the point. Is it's easy to point the finger at God for destroying a race of people, yet they will sit there in hypocrisy
and watch their own race get killed.
Well, and then say nothing about babies being aborted, and they justify it by saying, "Oh, it's just a clump of cells," or "It's not really a baby yet; it's a fetus."
Same thing.
It's a beta. It's a baby.
No matter how you look at it, it's a baby. As soon as those two things combine, it's a kid.
Well,
whether you like it or not.
No, that's the way that is. But it's the same basic principle is jumping off a cliff yelling, "I don't believe in gravity." It doesn't matter that you don't believe in gravity. You're still going to smack on the ground dead. You can jump. You can not believe in gravity all you want. It doesn't change the fact that there's still gravity. You can call it a fetus, but it doesn't change the fact it's still a baby. That's what bothers me.
Okay, so this kind of falls in the category. We've already kind of covered this just a little bit. Okay, so the Bible says that divorce is also a sin, doesn't it? I'm just making sure my theology is correct.
Yeah, divorce is a divorce. God did not intend divorce. And he hates divorce, but under certain circumstances.
He didn't plan sin either. But that's
no. He gave us a choice. But the point is that under certain circumstances, even God permits it.
Well, that just answered my question right there. So
adultery, because if somebody's cheating on you. The other thing too, though, with that is, it's like adultery is one, but I think the other part of that too is if you are with an abuser, somebody that's beating you up, and God says, well, turn the other cheek. That means to forgive. Really, is what that's talking about. Is to not hold a grudge towards a person, but you also don't need to stand there and allow somebody to continue to beat on you or control your life in every aspect. That's not biblical either. God did not intend for man or women to control their spouse with or to beat them. That's another way you can walk out. God will let you walk out of that because they are
abusive, they are cheating, it's just not a good, if it's not good for you, if that's not his plan for you.
Well, it's not based on your feelings. It's not based on, we're just not in love anymore, or it's just too hard. That's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, like, when it's not good for you, as in physically or, like, mental or physical abuse, or any kind of abuse at all. Under those circumstances, it's okay, basically.
Because, in a way, if you look at it, they are committing, it's not sexual adultery, but in a way, that kind of abuse is another form of adultery, at least in my book. I don't know how other people might do it, but for me, abuse is another form of adultery. It's not sexual in nature, but it's you're more in love with yourself, and your image than you are in doing what God commanded, which is to love your wife as Christ loved the church and to lay yourself down for him. So I would say that's another form of adultery.
Okay. So now here's kind of an interesting question. So what do you feel? Okay, so back in Abraham's day, he married his sister, and that's not allowed today. What do you think about that? I mean, is that like, what do you think about that? I mean, if you think about it, it was good back in those days, but today it's wrong. Didn't it say somewhere that Abraham married his sister? And even back in the day after Adam and Eve, they had to.
Well, wait a minute. Where's my Bible?
Okay, so
we're talking about Abraham.
We were talking about
Sarah.
How Abraham and Sarah, how brother married his sister.
Well,
what's your opinion on this?
Sometimes I wonder how you come up with this stuff. The questions of a child's mind.
It just comes to me.
Well, this was, Abraham was shortly after the flood, and they were repopulating the earth, and the bloodlines were still pure. So, of course, that wouldn't happen today, because we're way far removed from that. And so, yeah, technically, Sarah was his half-sister, but they were repopulating the earth, and the bloodlines were pure. There's too many impurities in today's bloodlines, and it would be kind of weird. It's just not culturally right, and even God wouldn't.
Because the bloodlines weren't pure anymore.
Yeah, well, well, not that. That changed as the world got more populated, people got more further removed from each other.
Okay, so is it wrong to be friends with pornholics, druggies, thieves, and people like that? With those, this type of problems? And then I'll go into other categories for other questions. Under these categories.
Okay, here's the thing, is that being a Christian means you're supposed to share Jesus with people, and you've got to know people to be able to share with them. And so it's one thing to have them as a friend, but it's not so much being friends with them, it's hanging out with them. Because it's easier for you to be drugged down because you are a creature of flesh like everyone else. We all are. And our flesh desires things it shouldn't. And so if you're around people and they like to look at porn all the time, pretty soon you'll find yourself looking too. And it's just a dangerous thing to open. So it's okay to have them as friends, but
Don't hang around with too
you
much.
can't hang around. You can't like go hang out with them. You shouldn't go and hang out with them at their house. You know,
Yeah.
it's like at school. And but if they start talking about this, stuff, then you need to try to redirect the conversation to something else. Say, dude, well, kids are constantly looking at porn on the internet or something. I'm like, dude, you don't need that in your head. You know what that does to you? You're just gonna talk to them. So you get that in your head, and then you want to try it, and then pretty soon you find yourself in a mess. And that's what will happen. And you think it seems so innocent just to look, but then you want to go out and do it, and then you just can't stop doing it, and then the next thing you know, you don't have a real relationship with anybody.
Nah.
You've got kids running around, or you've got STDs, or you just, your relationships never work out because they're based on, not on love, but on sexual attraction, on physical love, and it never lasts.
Okay, and then I also had some more in depth to this particular subject. I don't know why I added the first question. Okay, so what sin would these be classified under? The porn alcoholics, druggies, and thieves. I want to start with thieves. What sin would that be? Well, that's obvious. Do not.
Well, that's breaking the commandment.
Okay,
Thou
so
shalt
okay.
not steal.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's
That's one in itself. But okay, so it was basically druggies that I had.
the other two would be classified under idolatry.
Idolatry. Okay. And then the next one. Okay.
Idolatry. And they become your idol.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you think about more than anything else? Getting high. That's drug. That's idolatry. You're worshiping the drug
Instead of
or
God.
the pleasure of it more than God.
Okay, and then okay, so and under any circumstances, in which this would be okay,
What?
the thieving or stealing under any circumstances would this be okay?
No, you can't steal at all.
I mean, like if it was like from like say you were an Israelite and you were stealing from Canaanites.
That's not stealing. There's a whole different. That's a different thing. Stealing means you are taking something that belongs to somebody else with the intent to enrich yourself. Now, when the Israelites went in, they conquered. There's a difference between stealing and conquering. They conquered a nation, and God told them to take the spoils of it because they conquered that nation. That's a whole different thing.
Okay.
That's conquering. And then you gotta realize they were the treasures of darkness, of sin. They collected those through sin, and when they were judged by God, not by the Israelites, God judged them. And in fact, a lot of times you'll notice if you read that God did a lot of the fighting of the battles for the Israelites. Yeah. So.
Not like the time he had them all like shout out all at the same time and had it.
And the walls of Jericho fell. Yeah.
Okay, and then okay, like let's say you're really poor and you just can't get a job. The economy's so bad, and you have to steal food to feed your family. Would this be okay?
Well, so here's the thing: is
I'm just wondering if it.
See, you're trying to justify something based on the need of it. God says, "I know what you need, and I'll provide it for you." But are you trusting Him to provide for you? And if you're that bad off, somebody's not doing their job. Christians aren't doing their job. So it's like this. That's where grace comes in. You're hungry and you don't know what to do, and you end up stealing something. God will forgive you. It's covered under grace because you're doing it out of need, not to enrich, but to survive. But is it okay? No, it's still a sin.
Okay. Okay, so
it doesn't matter what the need is or what the purpose is. It's still sinning. But God forgives because you're trying to survive, not trying to enrich yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So next question. Under the not totally different, but under druggies is okay. We already covered what sin to be classified under, and under any circumstance would this be okay, like medically?
Well, there's a difference between taking a drug to cure a problem. God gave us a mind. So people who run around saying, well, I don't believe in doctors and taking medicines because I believe in just faith that God will heal me. Well, God says, yeah, I gave people minds and you used them and you created things to help, and that's perfectly fine to go to a doctor and take some medication for an illness or a sickness. That's different things.
Okay, that's my question because I've heard people say that. I'm thinking, okay, I want to cover this.
Well, see, and this is where you get into some other things because especially people who.
Well, that was kind of my intent of the question, to get into other stuff.
Well,
Under the construct, because when I first thought of this, that's how it kind of happened.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. What I'm getting into is,
No, I was searching for something, found it. Keep going, I'm listening.
But the thing, this is where you get into arguments, like people, especially who smoke marijuana, they get into saying that God said, every seed-bearing plant I give to you, and that's their justification for smoking dope.
But still, it's idolizing. So.
Well, yeah, because that becomes your world. It's not, but it's more than that. These drugs alter your mind.